Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed viewers at home. We welcome you to another edition of Democracy and the Rule of Law. In today's episode, we'll be looking at, of course, there have been a lot of trending issues across the Federation, but we'll be looking at the issue that made, of course, headline concerning the arraignment of 76 purported children in Abuja within the week. Of course, issues of violation of human rights have been raised, by public affairs and civil society organizations. Of course, the international community have had one or two to say, where, of course, we also, though unfortunately, that 3 of the suspects who were allegedly children fainted, and it was reported that these children have been in custody, for a consecutive period of up to 100 days. Of course, the police force have released statement that they followed due process in the arraignment of these suspects. And of course, they've also enlightened the public that even though they are minors, that they have followed the procedure laid down, by the relevant laws, in making sure that anybody who commits any offense is made, to face the consequences of those offenses. And also, if time permits, we'll also take a look at the issue, in Rivers State. First, the issue relating to the CJN, summoning the judges who have had the opportunity, to preside over the issues, conflicting decisions in Rivers State, and of course the big elephant, the Federal High Court order of instructing the CBN to withhold the allocation due to Rivers State. We'll look at these issues and the legal implications of all of this. We have our guest in the studio this evening to help us make sense of this issue. I remain your host, Barrister Kenneth Mimo. We'll go on a very short break now. We'll return. We'll introduce our guest. Stay tuned. We'll be back very shortly. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're on to your favorite program, Democracy and the Rule of Law. With me on the show this evening, we have Dr. Frederick Odutola, an educationist, a lawyer, and many more. Dr. Frederick, welcome you to the show this evening.
Thank you very much. Nice to be back here. Good evening, viewers.
All right. And also me today, we have Barrister Obiora Ume, respected legal practitioner here in Lagos State. Barrister Obiora Ume, we welcome you to the show this evening.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers.
All right. Without much ado, we'll delve into, the topics of today's edition. Of course, it is an unfortunate situation. There has been a lot of outcry. Of course, the police have had to issue statements. Civil society, lawyers, commentators have had cause to also issue statements. Of course, we saw the documentary of the 96 purported children, 76 who were arraigned in Abuja.
I've been kept for 93 days.
Yes, and the issue now, so what is the legality, of or otherwise of this detention and arraignment? Well, let's start with you.
Well, it's so sad, and it's like we have been exposed already, and it's going to affect our human rights index the world over, because it's made a caricature of ourselves as a nation. In the first instance, those are minors, and so if you have minors like that, even if they are accused and you know that you suspect them that they've committed offense, which still has to be proven in the court of law, they have to be kept in hostile home because they are children. That's number one. Number two, the criminal law of Nigeria, it says that a person shall be tried where he has committed the crime. So what is carrying them from Kano, Katsina to Abuja? So who will be the witnesses against them? Who will say, would you be bringing witnesses from Kano and Katsina? So they are normally ab initio. Then you can see from our AGJA, the latest one we have, AGJA 2015, and Section 7 says, Section 8 says that there should be humane treatment of arrested suspects, which says a suspect shall be accorded humane treatment having regard to his right to the dignity of his person and not be subjected to any form of torture, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment. When you look at those children, they look malnourished, they look unhealthy, they look unkept. So it's a shame on us. It's a very big shame. I think the way it is now that everything is open to the public, the AGF should just thoroughly prosecute and then let them go.
All right.
With compensation.
Of course, we've seen the issue. These children were charged with treasonable offenses. That means it's a serious crime. You were planning to overthrow the president. So what do you have to say concerning this?
Well, on my part, what I believe is that first, Nigerian station got it wrong. As far as these underage children are concerned, the basic law of Nigeria is the Constitution. And the Constitution said that when someone is suspected to have committed a crime, the time limit within which the person must be granted an administrative bail by the police or arraigned in court. In the case of these underage children, they were in custody for 93 days. It does not matter that they went and obtained remand warrants. Remand warrants cannot override the very clear provisions of Constitution. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And as such, any step taken in the course of dispensing justice that is in conflict with the clear provisions of the Constitution is not and void to the extent of the inconsistency. Again, they were arraigned in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, under sections 411, 412, and 413 of the Penal Codes for various offenses ranging from terrorism, arson, and a call to overthrow the government of the and other various criminal offenses. And we know, like my learned colleague said earlier, there is territorial jurisdiction in criminal matters. Territorial jurisdiction has to do with where the alleged crime was committed. In the charge, they were alleged to have committed the various offenses in different places: Kano, Kaduna, Borno, Nasarawa, and other places. Why were they now taken to Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, instead of using the very places where the offenses were allegedly committed? And what is more, these underage children were denied their basic rights. It is clear that during the 93 days of incarceration, they were denied their basic right to education. They were denied right to their guardians, their parents, and they were not given food, adequate food and nourishment for the period in question. And that was why the international community, Amnesty International, human rights organizations all over the world cried foul. They believe that Nigeria had taken us back. Our human rights records has gone back. It is a serious debt. And why were these children hounded? Simply because they said that there was need for proper governance in this nation. There was need to end bad governance. That was the protest. And if people are calling for end of bad government, what is the solution? For those in power to look inwards and address the issues that the protesters raised. The protesters raised the issue of hunger. The protesters raised the issue of insecurity. The protesters raised the issue of hike in transportation and other things. There were so many things. Have those things been addressed? The answer is no. Now, they were taken to court, and some of them collapsed in the court. Some of them fainted because of lack of proper feeding and attention. Now, what picture is Nigeria as a nation portraying to the entire world? That Nigeria is going back to the era of dictatorship. That Nigeria is going back to the era of lawlessness. But I know that those in power have committed themselves to rule of law, federalism, and democracy. And there is need for it to be seen as constitutionalism, there's rule of law in this nation. Now, I'm aware that police tried to claim that those that fainted because it was a
drama.
It was
a drama, yes. Like attention.
But see, I will say that rest is a loquitur. That the first speak for itself.
It speaks for itself.
If you look at those children, you discover that they are looking very frail. That they are looking malnourished. That they are looking so emaciated. And if somebody looks at them properly, the person will know what they have gone through. They must have gone through, series of torture. There's physical torture, there's mental torture, they are subjected to inhuman treatment. And to have detained them in the detention facilities meant for adults is a violation of international human rights instruments that has made it clear to which Nigeria says that you don't treat young persons the way you treat adults.
Okay, all right.
Now, to add to what my learned colleague has just said, on a serious note, in the paper accusing those children. Now, let me first clear it. I'm surprised that the prosecutor for those children was never interviewed, and that leaves much to be desired, because the man who spoke as a defense counsel is a man in another case, second case of 43 arraigned people. So there are two arraignments: the young people, the children, 76 of them, and then the adults, 43 of them. So I want to know where the prosecutor for those young people would keep his face. And if he's a lawyer, I'm sure that he wants to be derobed, because we are supposed to support and encourage the standard law in the given environment. That's number one. Number two, around the same time that these children were arraigned, a judge is asking them to get 10 million naira bail for each of them, while you are asking somebody, a Federal of Rep man who had a problem, who slapped a boat driver, to go on 500,000 naira bail. You know, some people are saying, what's really wrong?
All right, Dr. Fred.
Another issue, before you go, please. Another issue is the issue of the Russian flag. Ask any of these children what flag they are holding, they don't know.
Well, the children, the alleged children, because of course the police have said they are not children.
My dear brother, let police say anything. Those 76 that we saw, the part of who fainted in the court, we know they are children. Maybe they are confusing those one with the 40 adults arraigned in another court. They should not bamboozle us. We can see it is. My brother just said it. Rest is a clear case of res ipsa locutor. So, the case speaks for itself.
Yeah, but what does this say concerning now our justice system as a whole? Of course, if the police, who obviously kept the children for this number of days, had violated the law, I'm sure that the judge who presided over the case wouldn't have let it slide, and I'm sure that people would have been fired by now. But we've not seen any of such action. That goes to imply that they followed the due process, and that is an indictment. That is an indictment on our criminal justice system. So where do we go from here?
Well, since we are signatories to International Human Rights Charter, since we are signatory as a nation, CUSI demands that we follow the rule of law to the latest. Children all over the world are given special treatment. Yes, even if they are accused and they want to be prosecuted, they have Buster home, they have man home. It's in every state as Buster home, which is for young people. How do you put young children in? What are you telling them they are to be trained in real criminal matters or what? Because that's number one. Number two, if you are arresting them from the state and you say somebody was even given said they have no home, they are homeless. If they are homeless, should they be in jail? You know. So I think it's a slap on our democracy, and I'm sure that we are all guilty on a serious note. Because where were we all these 93 days? Nobody even remember that some people were taken away. And why this long before they were brought to court? Over 3 months. These offenses that they've committed, even if they are charged to court, at most it will be 3 months imprisonment or fine in lieu of the. So they've finished their imprisonment already.
Okay, Barsobia.
Yes, to your question, I think the issue is like this. In our just administration system, the judge sits there as an umpire. He does not descend into the arena. So ordinarily, if something has not been done properly, it is not for the judge to raise it. It is for the parties concerned to raise it. Which means if something has not been done the way it ought to be done, the judge may not raise it. Although in some cases the judge may still raise it so much and ask the parties to address the court, particularly the lawyers to address the court on that point. So, concerning the question you raised that why has some people not been indicted and so on, if nobody has raised it before any court or before Justice Obiora Igwe who handling the matter, the judge may not raise it on its own. And then you look at also what my learned friend made mention of, which is also very important, that the essence of bail is to ensure that people concerned facing criminal charges appear to stand their trial. It is not meant to be a punishment. It's not meant to be a way of keeping people incarcerated in custody unnecessarily. And the judge, in granting them bail, gave bail condition of 10 million naira each and 2 shorties. One of them must be a federal civil servant on grade level 15. And then the other shorty must be a relation of the defendants. The question is, how many of these children will have access to a civil servant on grade level 15 and above, or be able to meet a 10 million naira bail condition? Because what it implies is that whoever is standing must be worth that amount. In the event of failure of the defendant to appear for his trial, the shorty will be made to forfeit the bond. It's a quasi-contractual issue between the shorties and the state.
Yes, but
now,
I want you to clarify this point.
Yes.
You said that the judge ought not to descend into the arena.
Arena of justice.
Yes, but you also said that the judge could also raise some issues.
Yes.
And you also have said that if Rep Ciso Locator,
yes,
these were children,
yes,
then the judge obviously would believe she could see it. She could say that they were children.
Yes.
And given the fact that the judge also has a responsibility to raise some glaring issues.
Yes.
Of course, up to 6 children had already fainted before the court session, and yet the judge went ahead, to, grant these children bail for 10 million naira, and without saying anything. So doesn't that raise a question of our criminal justice system? Because that's the question.
Yes, the bail condition granted by the court in respect of this matter appears to be excessive.
Well, our criminal weight on ACJA. All we're using in Nigeria is ACJA 215.
Yes.
Now, Section 75 of ACJA simply says this: even in the case of an adult where a suspect against whom an order under Section 72 of this Act is made does not perform the act specified in the order or appear and apply to have the order set aside or modified, is liable where the act offends public safety, that's public nuisance, and to a fine of not less than 100,000 naira for individual and not less than 1 million naira in case of a court body, or imprisonment for a term of 6 months. That's it for adults. So now you're talking for children, you're talking of 10 million naira. Where does the judge say the 10 million naira?
Yeah, I think the bail sum the consequence of the charges that we are preferred against them. Of course, we've seen from the police, PRO, they said there were charges including terrorism, arson, destruction of public property, threat to national security.
Now, you can see all those charges. You know, an accused is presumed innocent until proven guilty. So, this kind of cheating that we saw, just tell me how competent are they to topple a government? You know, you see, all the state governments are affected that they have problem in their hands. If you look at what happened during this riot, you see people removing roof, removing fires, removing buckets. So, for God's sake, those are the people who want to topple a government. You see, when you look at, I think the lawyers and our judges at the bench too, we pray that we will be able to just correct the political leaders where they are going wrong. I think it's our duty as friend of the court, amicus curiae. Now, on a serious note, this is a slap on the face of Nigeria. There's no two way about it. That they are not children. We can see their children. Nobody is reducing their size on the television. And you can see that they've not been well for 93 days. Is too long a time, please. On a serious note, what's the imprisonment if they're guilty?
Okay. So we'll go on a very short break. I'll return. I will look at other aspects of this issue. Stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.